Have you ever gone a whole day without talking to anyone, and instead of feeling lonely, you felt peaceful? Like the world finally turned the volume down. No notifications, no small talk, no pressure to perform, just you, your thoughts, and a strange kind of calm that most people don't understand. And then someone says, that's not healthy. Humans need people. But do they always? Because here's the thing, some people don't just tolerate being alone for days, they genuinely enjoy it. They crave it. They protect it. And if you're one of those people, you've probably wondered at some point, is something wrong with me? Let me show you why the answer is no, and why your brain might actually be wired for something deeper. Imagine this. Two people finish a long, exhausting week. One immediately calls friends, makes plans, fills every hour with noise and connection. The other turns off their phone, sits in silence, maybe reads, maybe just thinks. Same exhaustion, completely different response. Why? Psychology calls this difference stimulation preference. Some brains are constantly seeking external input, conversations, social energy, interaction, but others? They get overwhelmed by too much input. Their minds don't need more noise, they need space. And that space, being alone, isn't emptiness for them. It's clarity. When you enjoy being alone for long periods, your brain isn't missing something. It's actually processing more than most people realize. Think of your mind like a crowded room. Every interaction adds another voice, another opinion, another expectation. For some people, that room gets noisy fast. Being alone is like opening the windows and letting the noise escape. That's why solitude often feels like relief, not isolation. But here's where it gets interesting. People often confuse solitude with loneliness. They think they're the same thing. They're not even close. Loneliness is the pain of wanting connection and not having it. Solitude is the peace of choosing disconnection when you need it. And your brain knows the difference. In fact, research in neuroscience shows that when people willingly choose solitude, their brain activity shifts into what's called the default mode network. This is the part of your brain responsible for self-reflection, memory processing, creativity, and deep thinking. It's the same network that activates when you're daydreaming, imagining, or trying to understand your own life. So when you're alone, your brain isn't idle. It's working on you. It's replaying conversations, analyzing emotions, solving problems you didn't even realize were unresolved. It's connecting dots between past and present. It's asking questions like, why did that bother me? Or what do I actually want? And most people don't give themselves enough quiet to hear those answers. That's why people who enjoy being alone often develop a stronger sense of identity. They know what they like, what they don't, what drains them, what excites them, not because someone told them, but because they spent time figuring it out. But let's be honest, it's not always easy to live like this in a world that constantly tells you the opposite. We live in a culture that equates being busy with being valuable, being social with being successful, and being alone with being suspicious. If you say you stayed home all weekend by choice, people look at you like you're hiding from life. But what if you're actually connecting with it in a deeper way? Think about it. When you're always surrounded by people, always reacting, always responding, when do you actually listen to yourself? People who enjoy solitude aren't avoiding life. They're creating space to understand it. And yes, there's a psychological pattern here. Many of these individuals tend to be more introspective. Their minds naturally turn inward. They're curious about their own thoughts, their own patterns. They're the kind of people who replay a single conversation for hours, not because they're anxious, but because they're trying to understand it from every angle. And this depth comes with a trade-off. Because when you see deeply, you also feel deeply. That's why social environments can sometimes feel exhausting. It's not the people, it's the processing. Every expression, every tone, every subtle shift gets noticed. While others are just hanging out, your brain is quietly analyzing everything. After a while, it's like your mental battery drains faster than everyone else's. So you step away, not because you don't like people, but because you need to reset. And here's something most people won't tell you. That need for solitude is often a sign of emotional intelligence. Because you're aware enough to recognize when you're overwhelmed. You're honest enough to step back instead of forcing yourself into situations that drain you. And you trust yourself enough to be alone without needing constant validation. That's not weakness. That's control. But there's another layer to this. People who enjoy being alone for days often develop a unique relationship with their own thoughts. For some, that's empowering. For others, it can be a little dangerous, because when you spend a lot of time inside your own head, your thoughts get louder. And if you're not careful, they can start to loop. You might overthink things, replay past mistakes, imagine scenarios that haven't even happened. Your brain without external distractions sometimes becomes its own source of chaos. This is why solitude works best when it's intentional, not accidental. There's a difference between choosing to be alone and isolating yourself without realizing it. One brings clarity. The other can quietly build walls. So the real question isn't, is it okay to enjoy being alone? The question is, what are you doing with that time? Are you growing, reflecting, creating, understanding yourself? Or are you just escaping? Because solitude amplifies whatever you bring into it. If you bring curiosity, it gives you insight. If you bring creativity, it gives you ideas. But if you bring fear or doubt, it can magnify those too. And this is where balance comes in. Even the most independent minds need some level of connection. Not constant interaction, not forced socializing, but meaningful connection. The kind where you can be yourself without performing. The kind that doesn't drain you, but quietly supports you. Because humans at our core are still wired for connection, just not in the same way for everyone. Some people recharge through others, some recharge through solitude, and some need a rhythm between the two. If you're someone who enjoys being alone for days, your rhythm is just different. You might connect deeply with a few people instead of casually with many. You might prefer long conversations over small talk. You might disappear for a while, not because you've forgotten people, but because you're reconnecting with yourself. And that's okay. Actually, it's more than okay. It's valuable. Because in a world full of noise, people who can sit in silence without feeling empty are rare. They're the ones who think before they speak. The ones who understand themselves on a deeper level. The ones who aren't easily influenced by every opinion around them. They're grounded. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you were truly alone without reaching for your phone, without distracting yourself, without trying to fill the silence? Just you and your thoughts. If that idea feels uncomfortable, that tells you something. And if it feels peaceful, that tells you even more. Because your relationship with solitude is actually a reflection of your relationship with yourself. If you enjoy being alone, it often means you've built a space inside your mind that feels safe enough to stay in, and that's not something everyone has. So instead of questioning it, maybe it's time to understand it. You'll just know that your silence isn't emptiness, it's depth. And if this resonates with you, I'd love to know, what does being alone feel like for you? Peaceful? Or something more complicated? Because the more you understand that feeling, the more you understand yourself. And that's where everything starts.